Welcome to the Game Challenge. Today, we're diving into creating one of the most iconic games of all time, Pong. Whether you are an aspiring indie developer or just looking for a fun project, this tutorial will kickstart your game development journey. By the end, you'll have a polished, modern version of Pong to call your own. In this tutorial, you'll learn how to implement key game development concepts such as paddle movement, ball physics, collision detection, scoring systems, and using a physics materials in Unity. Let's get started. First, open Unity and create a new 2D project. Name it something like Pong Game. Once Unity loads, we'll set up the scene and start building the game's foundation. Rename your current scene name to Gameplay by right-clicking on it in the project window and selecting Rename. This helps keep your project organized as we move forward. Right-click in the hierarchy window, then go to 2D Object Sprite, click on Square. Change name of square to Background. Set the position of this square to 0, 0, 0 and scale this square to x equals 18, y equals 10. Change the color as you like. Here I am set the color the black. Also set order in layer property here to -1. Order in layer property in a sprite renderer's property settings determines the priority of a game object within a sorting layer. Lower numbers, game objects with lower numbers appear further back. Higher numbers, game objects with higher numbers appear closer to the camera. Next, right-click in the hierarchy window, then go to 2D Object, select Sprite, click on Square. Name this square Paddle 1. Adjust its scale to make it paddle-shaped. Try setting scale X to 0.2 and scale Y to 1.0 in the inspector. Position it to the left side of the screen at by -7.5, Y, 0. Now, duplicate Paddle 1 by pressing Ctrl+D from the keyboard and rename it to Paddle 2 and move it to the opposite side at by 7.5, Y, 0. Now we have our two paddle for the players. Also assign a color to both of them as you like. Here I have assigned blue for the left side paddle and green for the right side paddle. Now again right-click again in the hierarchy, go to 2D Object, select Sprite, click on Circle. Change the name of circle to Ball. This will be the ball of our Pong game. Position it at the center of the screen at X, 0, Y, 0. Adjust its scale to make it smaller, set scale X and Y to 0.5. For the boundaries, create a 2 new square sprite and change its name to Boundary, and adjust its scale to form horizontal walls at the top and bottom of the screen. Here I have set the scale of the boundary to X equals 18. Position one at Y, 4.5 and the other at Y, -4.5. These boundaries will keep the ball in play. Again let's create a square by clicking right on hierarchy, go to 2D Object, then Sprite, click on Square. Rename it to Left Goal. Scale and position it on the left side of the screen. Set position X to 9 and Y to 0. Scales it to X equals 0.5 and Y equals 10. Duplicate Left Goal and rename it Right Goal. Move it to the right side and set the position of X to 9. Now let's create a one canvas for UI. Right-click on the hierarchy window, click on UI and create canvas. Select UI Scale Mode to scale with screen size in Canvas Scaler. Now add two text by right-clicking on hierarchy, select UI and create Text Mesh Pro. Name it text_score1 and text_score2. This will use to display score of both player. Set both the text at each other corner. Set text_score1 to the left corner and set text_score2 to the right corner. Set them as you like. I also used some fancy fonts just to make our game look and feel right. Now we are going to create one game over panel that will display when one of the players scores 5 goals. Right-click on canvas, select UI and create image. Name this image panel _ game over. That will be the background of our game over screen. Click here on transform. Click Alt key and select stretch from here. Change its color and opacity to get a good look and feel of game. Now add one text for displaying which play wins the game. Right-click here, select UI and add text. Text Mesh Pro and name it text _ winner name. Set as you like on the screen. I am also going to add a button that will be our reset button to reset the game. Right-click, select UI and add a button and name it btn _ reset and set it as you like on the screen. Also change the text of the button to reset. Now in the editor we are going to add some tags. Tag will help us to detect where our ball hits, either it's on the paddle or the left goal or right goal. In editor, click here and select add tag, or you can do it by going to edit, select project setting and then select tags and layer. Here you can see there is a plus and minus icon. You can add or remove tags from this icon. Here we are going to add 3 tags. First one is the paddle that we are going to assign on both the paddles. The other 2 are left goal and the right goal that we are going to assign to left goal and right goal. After creating, just assign this tag to this game object paddle, left goal and right goal. Next, let's add physics properties to the paddles, ball, goals, and boundaries to make them interact realistically during gameplay. Select both paddles and add a rigid body 2D component from the inspector. Set the body type to kinematic to allow movement via scripts without physics forces affecting them. After that, add box collider 2D to both of them for collision detection. Select the ball, add a rigid body 2D component, and set gravity scale to 0. This prevents the ball from falling due to gravity. Add a circle collider 2D for collision detection. Create a physics material 2D. By right-clicking on the project window, select 2D and create a physics material 2D and name it ball material and assign it to the ball's collider. The physics material is used to adjust friction and bouncing effects of colliding objects. Set its friction to 0 and bounciness to 1 for perfect bounce behavior. For the boundaries, add a box collider 2D to each wall. These will keep the ball confined to the play area. Select left goal and right goal and box collider 2D component in it. Now, let's bring our paddles to life with responsive player controls. Create a new script in the scripts folder, name it paddle controller, and attach it to both paddles. I have already set up a paddle controller script. Let's look at the script. Now let's dive into the paddle controller script. This script controls the movement of the paddles in our Pong game. Let's break it down step by step. At the top, you'll notice 2 public variables. The speed variable determines how fast the paddle moves. The input axis variable is a string that specifies which input axis this paddle will use for movement. For example, one paddle will use the vertical axis and the other will use vertical 2, which we are going to set up in the input manager. Now, inside the update method, this line handles the movement. Input get axis input axis reads the player's input for the specified axis. For example, if the player presses W or S, the paddle moves up or down. We multiply the input by speed to control how fast the paddle moves, and by time, delta time to ensure smooth and frame independent movement. Then, we use transform, translate, to move the paddle vertically. Next, we need to make sure the paddles don't move off the screen. That's where this part comes in. Move clamp restricts the paddle's vertical position to stay within a specific range, between -3.5 and 3.5 on the y-axis. Finally, we set the paddle's position with transform position, ensuring it stays within these boundaries. And that's it. This script allows the paddles to move up and down smoothly while keeping them within the screen limits. Remember, for this script to work, we'll assign different input axes for each paddle in the Unity inspector. One will use vertical, and the other, vertical 2, ensuring independent controls for player 1 and player 2. For paddle 1 and paddle 2 to have separate controls, you'll use vertical for one and create a new axis, vertical 2, for the other. First of all, we are going to open Input Manager. Go to Edit, select Project Settings and Input Manager in Unity. Click the arrow next to Input Manager in the inspector to see the list of input axes. Right-click on the vertical axis in the list of axes and click Duplicate Array Element. Rename the duplicated axis to vertical 2. Click on vertical 1 to edit its settings in the inspector. Remove positive and negative texts. Click on vertical 2 to edit its settings in the inspector. Remove alt positive and alt negative texts. Now, you'll assign the axis names in the paddle controller script for each paddle. Select paddle 1. In the inspector, look for the Input Axis field in the paddle controller script. Set the input axis to vertical default controls with S. Select paddle 2. Similarly, assign the input axis to vertical 2 inches, configured controls, up, down arrow keys or your custom keys. This gives each paddle independent controls. Now, let's give the ball its motion and define its interaction with the paddles and goals. Create a new script called ball movement and attach it to the ball. Let's explore the script. Now let's explore the ball movement script, which is responsible for the behavior of the ball in our Pong game. At the top, we define a public variable. This controls the speed of the ball throughout the game. You can adjust this value in the Unity inspector to make the game easier or harder. Next, we declare a private rigid body 2D variable. This will store a reference to the rigid body 2D component attached to the ball, which handles its physics behavior. Moving into the start method. First, we assign the rigid body 2D component to the RB variable so we can control it in the script. Then, we use invoke to call the launch ball method after a 5-second delay. This gives players a brief moment to prepare before the ball starts moving. Now, let's see how the ball is launched. Here, we're randomly deciding the initial direction of the ball. The x-axis direction is either -1 or 1, meaning the ball will move left or right randomly. The y-axis direction is a random value between -1 and 1, creating variation in the angle. Next, we combine these values into a single vector. The normalized method ensures the ball always moves at a consistent speed, regardless of its angle. We then set the ball's velocity using the rigid body 2D component and multiply the direction by our speed variable. Now, let's look at the onCollisionEnter 2D method, which reacts when the ball collides with other objects. Here, we check if the ball hit a paddle. If it did, we calculate how the ball should bounce. This code calculates the vertical offset of the collision point relative to the paddle. The ball bounces in a different direction depending on where it hits the paddle, creating dynamic gameplay. We then ensure the ball always maintains a minimum horizontal speed and apply the new velocity. This logic keeps the ball from slowing down too much when it hits a paddle. Finally, we handle when the ball hits the left or right goal. If the ball hits the left goal, player 2 scores a point. If it hits the right goal, player 1 scores. We use the game manager script to update the score, ensuring the game flow is centralized. And that's the complete ball movement script. It handles launching the ball, calculating its bounces, and scoring when it enters a goal. This script is crucial for creating the exciting, dynamic gameplay we want in our Pong game. In Unity Editor, let's create one empty game object and change its name to Game Manager. In Project folder, create one script named Game Manager. I have already set up this Game Manager. Now let's go over the Game Manager script, which acts as the brain of our Pong game. It handles scoring, resetting the ball, and determining the winner. Let's break it down step by step. At the very top, we define a static instance of the Game Manager class. This allows other scripts to access the Game Manager directly. In the awake method, we assign the current instance. This ensures there's only one game manager in the game. This is one of the design patterns called singleton pattern. Next, we have two variables for our UI elements. These display the scores for player 1 and player 2. Next, we have a public transform variable ball which holds the ball of your game. This stores the scores for both players using integer variables. We also have text underscore winner name that will display the winner name of the player. We have panel underscore game over, it's the screen that hold text underscore winner name and restart button. Next, there are two public color variables that will be used to set the winner player color at game over. In the start method, we initialize the score display. The add score method is called whenever a player scores a point. Inside this method, we check which player scored. The player's score is updated, and the corresponding UI text is refreshed. If a player reaches a score of 5, we declare them the winner. The game winner method is called, which displays the winner's name and ends the game. We also set the game's time scale to 0, pausing all gameplay. If no one has won yet, we reset the ball position. The ball's position is reset to the center. Its velocity is set to 0 to stop it from moving. We then deactivate the ball temporarily and relaunch it after a short delay using the invoke method. The relaunch ball method activates the ball and uses the launch ball function from the ball movement script to restart gameplay. Finally, we have the reset game method. This reloads the first scene, effectively restarting the game. This will be assigned into the reset button. And that's the game manager script. It keeps track of scores, handles game logic, and ensures smooth transitions between rounds. With this in place, our Pong game feels complete and responsive. Let's see it in action. First, check the paddles. The paddle 1 should name input axis, vertical 1. And the paddle 2 should name input axis, vertical 2 feet, and also check the speed of the both paddle will be the same. Select the ball and also check the ball speed as you want. Now select the game manager and assign all the things game manager needs. Both score texts. The ball, winner name text, panel underscore game over. And assign the color as you likes. Now let's polish this game a little bit by trail render to the ball. Click on the ball and add the trail renderer component into it. Change the size of it to 0.5 by clicking here. Also change the shape as you like. Set the time to 0.5 and assign the material you like. Set the color little transparent so it look good. Let's play the game and see how it goes. And there you have it, a fully functional and polished Pong game. You've learned essential Unity techniques, including paddle movement, ball physics, collision detection, scoring systems, and physics materials. This is just the beginning of your indie game journey. If you enjoyed this tutorial, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Thanks for watching, and happy developing.